Before understanding the reasons for grid failures, we must know what is a grid itself. Actually, the electrical power systems are very often known by this name, grid. Now, the question is, what does the electrical power system means? It means generation of electrical power at 0.6 to 11 kilovolt, transmission of the generated electrical power at 132 or 400 kilovolt, and finally distribution of the same power at 66 or 11 kilovolt. This is example of an isolated power system, whereas in today's global scenario no such isolated power system exists. There are so many such kind of power systems are interconnected to each other and forms a vast network of generating stations and load centers, and they frequently share the power generated among them. This network grows, means new generating units and load centers are being added to the network as time proceeds. Why do we need such a sophisticated mess of towers and cables? The answer is very simple. Electrical energy is one of the best forms to use. It can easily be converted into the other forms such as motion, light and heat. But one of the biggest problem associated with this form, we cannot store it in a large amount and also not for a long time. Consequently, it has to be utilized at the same time when it is generated. In a power system, all generating units has to be shut down when there is no utilization of electricity. This case is not possible in today's modern commercial power system or a grid because of the diverse nature of different load centers, and even every single load has its own duty cycle. Means when some loads in a power system would be in off state, some other loads would be in on state. Consequently, electrical load on a grid always vary with time. For best utilization of fuel, generation should be matched up with the consumption. If not so, there would be two cases. When generation is more than consumption, this leads to the wastage of resources. In case when generation is less, this leads to the overloading of generating units and the supply medium. This overloading would be disastrous for the system. Every medium and large scale grid always consists of a central body known as load dispatch center, which look after generation and consumption in the system and coordinate among all generating and distribution company to get matchup between generation and consumption in the system. Although it is not an easy task in today's power network, which have very fast changing load demands. To pacify the peaks of load demand on the system, it is the duty of load dispatch center to maintain diversity of different loads in the system. To do this, the center gives instruction of load scheduling, means fixing different time slots for different category of load. For example, in some countries, agricultural load, that is irrigation of land, is allowed only in night time because in daytime all commercial load like school, colleges and offices uses energy. In dry time, when there is a shortage of water in dams and rivers, means hydropower stations are not capable of generating required amount of power. The center gives information of load shedding to the distribution companies. It means for different time slot, different category of load has to be off. Also, it is the duty of center to forecast the load demand by considering all possible future events in its periphery. For example, big sports event like Olympic, it has to instruct the generating station to ensure reserve of the energy for any peak demand. Despite of all these precautions, sometimes the complete system fails to maintain synchronization among generating units and load centers, and load demand exceeds over energy reserve at that instant and sometimes exceeds over total capability of the system, and consequently overload the all generating unit. In such cases, firstly, the weak generating unit would get fail and its load get distributed among the remaining units, consequently results in more overloading of remaining units. This may lead to start of a chain reaction and one by one generating units gets off grid by their own overload protection switchgears. This way the whole system gets shut down and we can say the grid become fail. Overdemand or overloading is not only the reason for the grid failure. There are so many other reasons which can cause rupture of the system. Sometimes failure of big generating unit causes high overloading of medium and small generating units, which may start again a chain reaction of failure of units. We also know that for protection of power system, there are so many protective relays are placed in the system at various places, which senses the abnormal behavior and fault of various devices and isolated the faulty part by giving triggering signal to automatic circuit breakers. But sometimes these relay can make false triggering. That is, without any reason, it may isolate a big part of the system. Unfortunately, if at that instant there is a high electricity demand on the system, this increases the possibility of blackout, that is, failure of unit one by one and complete shutdown. Many times, failure of big transmission line causes blackout in a big part of the system. Natural disasters like earthquakes and storms are usually the main reason for various historical grid failure. So these are some basic reasons and in this way the grid failure occurs. Hope you like the video. We will discuss more about this topic in our upcoming videos. Till then, thank you for watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.